Hey, this is your sister and ally, Moy FUNG, coming to you with another episode of Moy Talks, Life Beyond the Surface. Conversations intended to empower you to walk in wholeness and true freedom based on the Word of God. Listen in.
Ooh. Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. This is your sister and ally, Moy Fung, coming to you with episode 7 of Moy Talks. For those of you who were tuning in at 7 o'clock, I do apologize for the technical difficulties, and I hope that you can hear me clearly. So here we are. It's your sister and ally, Moy Fung. This is episode 7, and today is going to be a good show. I have a very special guest. His name is Steve Anderson, and he'll be joining me in just a few moments. But I'll just give you a brief backdrop on who Steve is, and then we'll get into some conversation. And I truly hope that you will be blessed by today's conversation. Now, before I do that, I just want you to know that today's broadcast is being brought to you by BIA Media, and it is being sponsored by Fraser and Associates Law Firm in Brampton. So here we are. Mr. Steve Anderson is the deputy mayor of the town of Shelburne and the regional councilor for Dufferin County. Mr. Anderson also has 15 years experience as senior litigation lawyer in Toronto Transit Commission, where he received a number of awards for his distinguished service. Now, that's all I'm going to say about him, but there's much more to Steve Anderson. So I just want to welcome Steve Anderson to my show. If he can just join me on screen, that would be great. And I just want to take the opportunity while he's coming in, just to say thank you to everyone who is listening in. And those of you who will watch this on the replay, I truly hope that this conversation will bless you. So, Mr. Steve Anderson, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Moy. I must say that I've been waiting a long time to be on your program, but the old saying goes, good things come to those who wait, right?
Oh, goodness, yes. Well, I'm glad that you're here. It is such an honor to have you. How are you feeling? You feeling all right?
I'm feeling fantastic.
Good. Now, I just read just a little bit about who you are, right? About your bio. Now, you know that you're on the Moy Talks show. Welcome once again. But I go a little bit deeper than titles, right? So I want to know, and I want our audience members, the audience to know, who is Steve Anderson? What is life like beyond the surface of, the titles? And
Wow. What a great way to start the interview, right? What is Steve like beyond the titles? Quiet, unbelievably so, I guess. Thinking that a person who is in public service, a lawyer, politician, somebody that you would imagine that, likes to hear the sound of their voice and is always out there. But I'm more of a reserved person, often quiet, maybe the last person, certainly in a social setting, that would speak in a room. I like to consider myself reflective. But yeah, I'm just Steve, just authentic. I try to be authentic in the way that I conduct myself, whether in private or in public.
Nice. You say you're just Steve, but there's so much more to that. But no, thank you so much for sharing that. I think one of the things that I wanted to ask you, because we know, being the first Black lawyer of the TTC, being first Black deputy mayor of Shelburne, it seems to be all glittery and glamoury and exciting. Is that true? What is life really like as deputy mayor?
Yeah. Very rewarding, of course, to be able to have this position, being as you mentioned, the first Black deputy mayor that they've had in Shelburne's history. So there's a sense of accomplishment, a sense of wanting to use the platform to represent our community. And what I mean by it's twofold. It's representing the Shelburne community, of course, as a whole, but certainly representing the Black community, because everywhere I go, I'm always mindful that I'm representing them. So there's that aspect of it, which is obviously very positive. But at the same time, as I say, representing the community and the Black community everywhere I go, there's a there's also the element of stress that comes along with that, right? Because you want to make sure that you're not, I guess, maybe messing things up where you would be preventing others who are looking to come behind you from having a similar opportunity. So along with the positives, there are some cons, I guess, by way of the stress, but all in all, it's been pretty good.
Nice, nice. I'm glad to hear that. I mean, you know, I'm sure, like you said, it comes with the territory, a fair bit of stress, right? You know, it's funny that you say that because I was watching just recently. I'm not sure if you watched it on Netflix, the Michelle Obama, the documentary where she was doing her book tour and just kind of highlighting life and all that
Yes,
stuff.
I did watch that.
And there was
Yes.
something that she said there where she spoke about, you know, when she was moving out of the White House and when she entered onto Air Force One, she said she sobbed for about half hour. And, you know, the reason for that, she was thinking was that was because it was just having the release, you know, from the pressure of having to be perfect. Can you relate to that? Do you think you could see why
Yeah,
she would say
yeah.
something like that?
Well, I mean, the reality is, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. I think when we are in this position, it's not oftentimes you see Blacks, minorities in these kinds of positions. And when we are, oftentimes all eyes are on us. And again, I mean, I certainly identify with Michelle Obama's experience, obviously in a much smaller scale, but nonetheless, the feeling of pressure remains. And I think many folks, Black and racialized, feel that, especially when maybe you were the only person to occupy that position ever. And so that comes with a whole slew of pressure and responsibility to make sure that, you know, you're not seen as a fluke or a one-off or an anomaly. And as I pointed out earlier, depending on how you sort of conduct yourself while you're there, you could either open the door wide open for other people, or you could seal it really tight based on, again, how you navigate in that space. And so, yeah, it's the pressure's on 24/7 because not only are you dealing with the pressure of those who are not like you in the sense that, let's say, non-Black, but you're also dealing with the pressure of, again, your own Black community because you know they have certain standards. Certainly, the outside world has certain standards, and of course, I have my own. So the pressure is there 24/7. There's no question about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Wow, wow, that's a big job, eh?
Yeah.
So
Mm,
yeah, yeah. I'm sorry, but so we're first lawyer, deputy mayor, and you're writing a book.
yeah. I'm finding the time to do that as
That's
well.
amazing.
Yeah.
I want to hear a little bit more about that. Let our audience members know what is this book all about, what's the name of it. Um, Tell us what inspired you. So driven to succeed is what I see there. What inspired you to write that book?
Yeah, you know what? Just looking at here on screen and seeing that picture of myself. By the way, I was in grade 7 there with that afro there. So Joy, don't laugh at me too much. But yeah, you know, and it's interesting. There's a juxtaposition between that photo on the front and the one in the back, and the one on the front was really to show folks that, you know, before you see the suit and tie and you talk about the accomplishments, you know, the story always starts somewhere first before you get there. And so I wanted people to see where I started, you know, really from humble beginnings, as you see in the title, you know, growing up in Jane and Finch. It wasn't an ideal situation, single parent household, all the barriers and challenges that one can imagine growing up in a community like that. And the real message that I want the reader to get when they get their hands on the book is that you could go through these challenges and setbacks and disappointments, but that's not an excuse not to attain success at the highest level. And that regardless of whether you're growing up in Jane Finch, Etobicoke, or any other area similar to that, that you too could grow up and make history and contribute to society in a meaningful way. So the book is really there to inspire folks to, again, I guess maybe see past their perceptions, the bias, the prejudice, and not allow that to prevent them from accomplishing their goals and their dreams.
Nice, nice. Now, from what I understand, and also from what you just shared, it sounds like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you were driven. you've been driven. Like it wasn't something that you adapted, you know, in
Yeah.
it's something you've
And
always
Moy,
had that
just
drive as a young boy.
your volume is a bit off, so I think I picked up a bit of what you're saying. I think you were asking me if I was. You made the point about always being driven, and maybe why that was the case. And I would say that it was really what I saw in the home, you know. And what I mean by that is my mother, as you know, Moy, I talk about her often everywhere I go. The work ethic, you know, the challenges that she had to overcome when she became a single parent, and just watching all of that unfold as a young child. You know, I wanted to do my part to make sure that she was taken care of. And even though I was young and couldn't do much at the time, in my mind, I was always, you know what, I need to do whatever I can to make sure that the sacrifices that she's making, not only for me, but for my siblings. Large Jamaican family, 6 brothers, 1 sister. And it was important to me that, again, the sacrifices that she was making was not going to be in vain. So there was always this push and this drive to, you know, get past these things that, these challenges and barriers that were there, to make sure that I had an opportunity to give back to her.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And thank you so much for sharing that. And just as I was saying in terms of ambition, because we see ambition, you had that at a very young age. But I do work in the school board. I have children of my own, and I see many kids nowadays. A lot of them lack ambition. You know, even if they're talented, I find that drive, that grit, that ambition is lacking. But again, from just listening to your story, it appears that you had that at an early age. Do you think ambition can be taught? And from your opinion, like, can we teach someone how to
Um,
have ambition,
yeah, that's a
or
difficult
is it
one.
just
You know,
innate?
yeah, you know, the immediate thought that came to my mind is a saying that I'm sure you and many of your viewers have heard before, that you could bring a horse to the water, but you can't force it to drink. And you know, one can argue it's the same thing when you say that you're trying to teach ambition. There's got to be something within, right? Where you say to yourself that you want better for yourself. And so somebody, even whether it's your family, your circle of friends, they could want the best for you. But if you yourself don't want it, it's very difficult or it will be difficult for you to attain that level of success that everybody perceives or believes that you're capable of reaching or attaining. So, in my view, I think people could encourage you. People could try to motivate you, but you have to have something within, and it usually starts with a purpose. You know, I talked about, you know, witnessing, you know, the separation of my parents and that purpose of wanting to take care of my mom. And so when things got difficult, I would just remind myself of that purpose, because that's what allows you to weather the inevitable challenges that come your way. There's got to be something that's pushing you, because if not, when you face the first resistance, you're just going to back away, wilter away, and there goes your plans to try to achieve what you're seeking. And so you have to have a resolve that's inside of you that says, no matter what, I need to go and achieve what I'm setting out to achieve.
Mm, yeah, that was good. And as you said, the resolve is not always there. Sometimes it sort of happens. Just it's not always innate. But what we do find, even if I look at my own life, you know, to some extent, it's that that fire, that drive, that motivation, you know, being driven to succeed, but not necessarily within, or it might have been hidden, right? But then maybe just inspired by something or someone, you know what I mean? So I think even the work that you're doing, because I know right now you are, you speak to you know, you're at different speaking engagements and just encouraging you just to really be your best and to live above your circumstances, which I think is really great about what you're doing. So thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. It's absolutely amazing. And I think, you know, like so many people, you know, like you grew up in Jada Finch, right? And oftentimes, you know, that preconceived notion is that nothing good. It's just like, you know, you're a Bible guy, right? So I can talk scripture with you, right? can anything good come from Nazareth?
Mm,
Right?
mm,
And here you are, Mr. Steve Anderson, who's soon to be a household name, right?
mm, mm.
Coming from Julian Finch and doing amazing things. So I'm very proud of you, as you know, and definitely keep up the good work. So what is next for you? Like, is it, so first lawyer and the teacher, first deputy mayor, like, is it like first prime minister, black prime minister? Is that kind of like on your to-do
Yeah.
list?
That's interesting. If I could make room for that, I do want to touch on something that you said as you mentioned about being a spiritual person, or both of us actually being that, and it's important that your viewers understand, at least as it pertains to my journey, um, to come from where I've come from to achieve the feats that I have, and hopefully many more to come, God willing. This never would have happened but for people praying me up. So whether it was my mom or my church family, so prayer and faith play a major role in the journey, to where I was, to where I am now, and where I'm going to be. And so I don't want to understate the importance of that, gloss over that. I think that prayer works. And my journey and my example is proof in the pudding that if you're facing difficult times, don't be afraid to get down on your knees and ask God for guidance.
Wow. Like, I could end the show right here. No, that's amazing. Thank you so much for bringing that in because, it's just so important. And I think that was my next question, just in terms of how, your faith played in all of it, how it impacted your life and all of this, all of your achievements. And it's so good to see that, after you've come to where you've come, which I know that, by your opinion, you haven't arrived. And there's so much more to go because there's much more that you'd like to do and accomplish, but you're acknowledging that if it weren't for, the prayers, if it weren't for God and having that purpose for your life, that you really wouldn't be where you are today. So thank you so much for sharing that. But did you answer the question about
About what's
are
next?
you thinking
Oh
are you
man,
delivering
uh, what's next? I mean, I don't know, Moy. To be honest with you, uh, I'm really focused on doing the job that's in front of me now. I think sometimes we get too ahead of ourselves, focusing on the next move and the next move after that and the next move after that. And it's important to be present. At the end of the day, the community that I serve is not interested in what I'm doing or what I'm thinking 3 or 4 years down the road. They're interested in what I'm doing today, and so that's what I'm focused on. Certainly, in the ladder of life, certainly I want to take additional steps when the appropriate time comes. But and I know this may seem like a cop out for you and your viewers,
no?
but I'm just really focused on doing the job the best that I can today for the time that I have in the position that I have, and the rest will take care of itself. So whether that's getting reelected or pursuing higher office, when that time comes, I'll consider those opportunities.
Well, that was a beautiful answer. Thank you so much for that. And it's not a cop out. It's exactly it. What you're saying is, focus on now and let God lead the way. If the way opens up for other opportunities, then for sure you'll go along, right? So thank you so much for that. So obviously diversity is a lifestyle.
Sorry?
You have a whole town that you're managing pretty much. Um, Someone once said that diversity is, oh my goodness, I can't remember. Diversity is getting invited to the party, but inclusion is ensuring that what you eat is on the menu, right? How do you do that in the role that you're in? How do you ensure that you're not just inviting people to the party, but you're making sure that what they eat is on the menu?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. When you're in a leadership position, I think oftentimes, even when you have a diverse staff, as we talk about inclusion and equity, you tend to make decisions that you believe are best for the group that you are leading or representing. And I think that's the mistake. That's where you have the diversity, but yet you don't have the inclusion, which is asking the people, hey, listen, what would you like to see on the menu when you come over? And I think that's a mistake that a lot of leaders, a lot of organizations, and even political figures make, is that they assume that they know what is best for groups or individuals. And so, using your analogy, if you truly are seeking to be inclusive, you certainly want to speak to the people that you're representing. I mean, it sounds really simple enough, or easy, because it is really. Speak to the people that you're representing and ask them their thoughts and their views. So using that dinner analogy, if I have a diverse group coming over, one of the first and basic things I'm going to do is to ask them, well, what would you like to see on the menu? To allow them to feel more included in the dinner party that I'm hosting, right? And so, or am I just dictating to my guests what they're going to eat and what they're not going to eat, and whatever I give them, they should be grateful for it. And I think organizations, businesses, and even government sometimes treats diversity like that, be grateful that I invited you, and that should be enough. And I think what we've seen last year into this year is that there are a number of folks that are saying that's not good enough anymore. I need to make sure that my food is on the menu.
Nice. Great answer. Speaking of diversity, have you been following the Meghan and Harry, Prince Harry? Have you been following the Oprah interview? I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Listen, if somebody didn't see that, then they're living in a cave. Man, I was on
I think I have a picture there. I don't know if my producer can put up the picture. I just thought it would be fitting just to share.
Yeah. That was in better times. That's not the image that people are seeing as of late. That was in good times, or allegedly good times. And you know what? That picture really is something. And I'm glad you actually put that, because what it shows is you can't judge a book by its cover. Be careful what you ask for when you see folks and you're idolizing folks and saying, man, I wish I had their lifestyle. Oh, they look so happy. You don't know what's happening behind the scenes, right? And so you could see something that seems so picturesque and ideal, but you don't know what's lurking behind. And so, we should be careful of wanting to trade our places for that of somebody else, not knowing what's behind the fence or behind the closed door. And I think this is a perfect message. There's always, society tells us, or tells certainly women, to grow up and be that princess, to go marry the prince. And we see here in real life what that really looks like. And so whether or not we should be teaching our daughters that should be the case or not is something that as parents, we really need to look into. But certainly, I was on the edge of my seat on Sunday evening, watching it with Oprah, who did a fantastic job. And Moy, it was just one bombshell after another. I was telling folks, my friends, that my mouth was getting carpet burn because my mouth was so wide open, my jaw was on the ground after just hearing one revelation after another. So, yeah, that was massive.
Yeah, no, I didn't actually watch the interview. I just just heard bits and pieces, articles and media sources. But what, in terms of diversity, what are your thought process or your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a great example to use that, right? So you have diversity for the first time within the royal family, arguably, certainly in a very long time. Unless you're tracing, really, really far back. And there's some scholars and researchers that will tell you there's been some color in the royal family for quite some time ago. But let's just talk about recently, right? There's really hasn't been any. And so for the very first time with the marriage of Meghan and Prince Harry, you had some diversity now in the royal family. It was a big spectacle when they had their wedding a couple of years ago. Black and white people were coming together. They had this dream and vision that things were changing. And so you got that diversity, but you didn't get the inclusion, and you certainly didn't get equity. And this was just another real life example of the pitfalls of just talking about diversity, but not following that up with inclusion and equity. Because what you heard during the interview was a lack of inclusion and a lack of respect, right? What you saw was something that didn't resemble equity whatsoever. She's talking about she left her house twice in 4 months. She wasn't allowed to leave. She was seeking treatment and was told, sorry, we can't help you. Doesn't that sound familiar to a lot of your viewers that are working in workspaces that their voices are not heard? And when they speak up, hey, listen, we can't help you. So you're there, but you're not included and there's no equity. And so when I watched that interview, it was just another painful reminder that diversity is just opening the door, but you have a lot more work to do once you get in.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. That is good. Yeah. So from a political standpoint, what are your perspectives?
Sorry?
Can you hear, right? From a political standpoint?
Mm-hmm. What's my perspective
from a perspective of, like, what does this, what does this look like for the family? Because we're talking about the royal family, the monarchy, right? From a political standpoint, can you hear me okay? What are your perspectives? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think there's a question, and a lot of people have been asking this as it pertains to the monarchy and sort of their influence, if you want to say politically even, is, are they still relevant? That's really the question. And a lot of people are questioning that. What real relevance does the royal family have in my everyday life? What influence do they have in my everyday life? And do I really care what they're doing and what's going on? And I think that's a question that a lot of people in our communities ask about even our elected officials. Do they care about what we're doing? Are they impacting my day to day? And if they're not, then as far as they're concerned, they're not relevant, right? And what that means is you're not going to get elected or reelected. And so I think a lot of people after watching that interview are saying to themselves, a lot of good taxpayers' money is going to propping up the royal family. Are they really relevant in 2021? And so I think those are major questions that they have to answer in light of that bombshell interview. I saw Prince Harry's brother make a statement the other day, which was simple and brief, simply saying that his family is very not racist. I think if that's your line of defense right away, you're in a lot of trouble as we talk about being relevant. So, but that's for the public to decide as to whether or not they still have influence in 2021.
Wow. No, thank you for that. And you said something previously as we were talking about the diversity thing, that even when you get in, and I know you're in a position now where you're still, I don't know if you're the only Black lawyer in TTC right now, but how is it as a Black man? Let's say you're the only Black man at the table. Do you still feel like you still got to do the work to stay there or to fit in, or to show or prove that you belong there? Is that something that
this may be shocking for some of your viewers, and it may not be shocking at the same time. And in the book, I write about this. My view is the moment you are born Black, you are relegated to a life of constantly having to prove your value and your worth. And I talk about the struggle of accepting those terms and not wanting to accept those terms, but ultimately conceding that that's just your life, right? And what I learned when I got the job at the TTC, I made it. I'm at the most iconic institution in Canada that people recognize. I'm making good money. I'm wearing my suits every day. And that does not shield you from the biases and prejudices that exist. And what I learned early on the job is, yes, I graduated with second-class honors from the University of Ottawa Law School. Yes, I got this job that many people would want to covet. Yes, I'm dressing the part, I'm talking the part. And yet still in certain circles, I'm still having to prove and justify my presence. And so I think it's ongoing. and like I said, a life that I think we're relegated to. And I think a lot of folks that are listening to this would understand where I'm coming from. That no matter how high you get, you're constantly having to prove why you are there. And I think that's just something that I think one just has to accept. And I know that we should remain optimistic and hope that, as I talk about in the book, that, one day getting to a point where we are not judged, and not to take a line from Martin Luther King, but we're not judged by the color of skin, but the content of our character. He talked about that how long ago? And yet still, that's how we're being judged in many ways. So, yeah, to answer your question, yes, I think, I know that that's something that I constantly have to do and will have to do moving forward.
Wow, 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 wow. It's too bad, and I'm sorry to hear that. But that's the reality, right? That's unfortunate. I'm hearing the lifestyle. But what you shared so far has been so powerful. And I really appreciate that in the midst of, still adversity, in the midst of, really just, trying to do your best to get ahead, to lead the way for others who will come after you. There's still such a pushback, there's still such a fight. So I appreciate you, praying for you, right? As you go and do what you've been called to do. Now, so I guess we've talked about your book. When is it coming out? When is your book coming out? Do you have a date yet?
I'm hoping that it'll be released, and thank you for asking that, Moy. I'm hoping that it'll be released by the end of the month. It will be available on my website. It'll be available for purchase on Amazon. And I'm happy to say that, all of the proceeds will be going to community-based organizations, one being Operation Black Vote, One Voice, One Team, and the Dufferin County Canadian and Black Association. These are organizations that are doing mighty work on the ground, really trying to help our youth to achieve success at the highest levels. And whatever dollar that we could get from the sale of this book, I'm hoping will allow them to continue the efforts that they are making.
That's amazing. Good for you. So did you say all of the proceeds will go to the charity?
Yeah. All of it will go there. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard something like that before. I've heard some of the proceeds will go.
No, all of it will go there. All of it. So whatever is sold from the book, listen, I thought about this when I was writing this journey. And I'd often say to my friends that, and again, I'm going to talk about this because I think this is important, certainly for your viewers, that when I sit at home and I reflect, honestly, where I was at Jane and Eddystone and all the things that I encountered, to be able to be in this position is nothing but the blessing of the Lord. And I say to my friends, if I didn't get blessed another day, I would have nothing to complain about. And so I've been able to be in a position where I'm able to make a decent living and take care of my family and stuff. And it's not like I'm starving for another dollar. And so if there's somebody or an organization that could benefit by the work that they're doing or by the sale and the proceeds of this book, then let it be so. At some point in life, it has to be less about padding your wallet and about helping others to achieve a measure of success that you've been able to achieve. Because at the end of the day, if you're not doing that, then quite frankly, I don't know what you're doing.
Steve, that was the most beautiful thing. That is amazing. And I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate you again, really giving credit for God, because He blessed you so that you see that forward. So thank you so much. I'm just so proud of the work that you're doing, honestly. Alex, he just had a message there. I don't think he saw it. I would just say, great work and good job, bravo. So, no, it's just I'm always so in awe when I hear you speak and just hear the heart of who you are in terms of your MO in life. I just think it's absolutely amazing what you're doing or what God is in fact doing for you. I don't I'm at a loss for words. Really, I am. Okay,
Yeah.
so in terms of representation, Steve, because I think this is very important. I'm from, as you know, Jamaica. I'm proud. And
So you should be.
I'm sorry?
I said, so you should be.
Yeah. In Jamaica, our lawyers, our educators, our doctors, they look like us. It's not the same here in North America. So here you are, and I don't see many of you. So in terms of representation, what do you have to share on that? How important is that?
Yeah, it's more than just a hashtag, right? It's life-changing. To be able to see somebody that looks like you in positions that you may be considering or may not even thought of considering is very important and motivating and inspiring. So representation is everything. I was at I'll share this story about why I don't take my presence, despite being pulled in one direction or the other in a number of events, speaking in person, certainly before the pandemic. I went to an elementary school here in town. The grade 8 team had won their basketball championship. They invited me to come by, and I provided them with a certificate and took some pictures. And I was getting ready to leave, and we were in the front foyer of the school, and I could see right behind us was the entry to the gymnasium. And I could see, as I was talking with the group and the teachers that were all standing there, this Caucasian teacher holding the hand of this little black girl that was standing in the door, and they were looking in my direction. But I didn't really think anything of it. They were just there, and I didn't know if they were waiting for somebody. And then I was turning around to leave after saying my goodbyes, taking all the pictures. And then that same teacher called out to me and said, "Excuse me, Deputy Mayor, do you have a second?" And I said, "Sure." I turned around and I said, "Sure." And she brought the little black girl over. And so the teacher said to me, she just wanted to say hi to you. So I crouched down and I said, "Hey, how you doing? What's your name?" And she told me, and she was like, "Hey, I know you. You know my parents. I'm so happy to see you. I'm so glad that you're here." And it was such a simple encounter, but yet so powerful. And it was powerful for this reason. How many times could you reflect growing up here in Canada, where as a young child, you could go up to an important figure that was brought into the school and say that I know this person and feel comfortable in a position of authority? The fact that she was able to tell the teacher, I guess as I was standing there, "Hold on, I want to go talk to him." And maybe even in the teacher's mind, she's thinking like, "How do you know this guy here? Are you sure?" And the fact that she came with confidence and 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 felt that it was well within her place to do that was something I'll never forget. That's what representation means in real time. We're not talking about hashtags on social media. We're talking about showing up. That's representation. And seeing her eyes light up. That is why we do what we do. That's the reason why we have to use our platform in the way that we do it. Because if we're not, then we're not making the difference that we need to be making. And quite frankly, we shouldn't be on that platform if we're not using it properly.
Wow, wow, wow. So can we have that question? You said so many things right there, and it's more than just a hashtag. We need to hashtag that right now. But Alex Hammer wants to ask the question. If we can just keep that up for a moment. Are we able to keep that up? Can you see the question?
Yes, I can. And thanks, Alex, for the question. Great to see my brother here. Alex is another giant who's making sure that he's using his platform along with you, Moy, to affect positive change. That's another example of representation right there. But the question is, what do I think needs to change in the mindset of disadvantaged youth for them to aspire for greatness? Well, the first thing is, first of all, to believe that they can be great, right? Moy, you asked me the question about, is it something learned, or is it something that could be taught? You have to have the mindset that you can. I did a Black History Month event, many of them last month, and I held up this crown here, and I said, if I was in person and I came there and I put this, first of all, before I even asked that, I said, what does this represent to you? As we talked about royalty today, and we talked about the prince, and we talked about the duchess, and we talked about the queen. And so I said, what does this represent? And they said all those things: royalty, respect, dignitary. And so I said, if I was in person and I came and put that on your head, how would you feel? Would you feel like royalty? And some of them were like, yes, but a lot of them were like, no. And so I asked a question, and even some of the teachers said no. And so I said, why? Because I don't believe that I'm royalty. It's for somebody else. So, back to Alex's question, you have to believe that you're important. You have to believe that you could achieve and that you are destined for greatness. And so as we are off the heels of Black History Month, my message to the youth is, whether it's February or March or April or May or June, remember that you're royalty. Remember where you come from. Because when you do that, then you will act like it. You will walk like it. You will talk like it. You will behave like it. And you will expect greatness in a world that wants to treat you as if you are not great. And so it has to start with here and in here and believing that things are possible.
Yes, Alex says you have to believe you're important and destined for greatness. Yes, absolutely. Wow, wow, wow. Representation is more than just a hashtag. Wow. You're just doing all of what you like. I'm so blown away always, by just your insights and just your level of determination and oh gosh, your grit, really. And it's clear that you're driven to succeed, but your success is not just about you. I see it as a selfless act. I see all of what you've achieved. We can see how you're using them to really inspire the younger generation to come up, understanding that no matter what their circumstances may be like, that they can be better. They are destined for greatness. And, if we have the right people around us, or even, have that resolve within, that we can truly accomplish great things. And you're such a great representation example of that. I'm honored to know you. You know that. It's such an honor to know you, Steve. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing. So what would you, you said so many things that I don't even know, what to touch on, but what would you say, oh gosh, you said so much. What would you say, let's say, to a young boy like yourself, who may, be in, let's say, dire living situation, family dynamics may not be ideal. What would you say to a little 9, 10-year-old boy who might be faced with those issues at this moment, at this time in 2021?
Again, as I said during the course of this discussion and in the book, it gets better. I think that's the message. It gets better, and you gotta stay the course, because there's no quick fix, despite what we see on Instagram and social media, where things seem instant. Real life is not that way, and so just like a windy day outside, you gotta plant your feet down on the ground and stay the course so you don't get blown away. And so whatever you have to hold on to make sure that the wind doesn't take you up and blow you all over the place. And so whether that's the hand of your friend, the hand of somebody you're in a relationship with, the hand of your parents, whoever it may be, just steady yourself because it gets better, right? We went through a harsh winter, and I just learned this morning that the first day of spring is next Saturday. Things are getting better, right? When we think about COVID-19 and where we were just a year ago, we just celebrated the anniversary a few days ago. Things are getting better. They were harsh. They were difficult. There are still people dying. There were a hell of a lot of people dying prior to where we are right now. But we could see that there's light at the end of the tunnel. And so stay the course, continue to have faith and believe, and things will get better.
Okay, mic drop. Yes, wonderful. Thank you so much. It gets better. And your analogies with the wind, and oh my goodness. Thank you so much for sharing. It's such a privilege and honor to have you, Mr. Anderson, here on Moy Talks. And you definitely shared some great nuggets of just living life beyond the surface. It's not so much about, being, deputy mayor or lawyer and all these fancy titles, which is a great achievement. Of course, we celebrate that for that. But more than anything, it's having a heart to serve. It's having a heart to pay it forward. And I really appreciate that about you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to have you back once your book is out. God bless you, and may you continue to guide your path. We're basically at the end of the show. I hope you had a good time.
I had a fantastic time, and I look forward to coming back when the book is finished.
Thank you so much. So thank you. So that's it. So thank you guys so much. Thank you once again, BIA Media. It is always such an honor and privilege to show up here every other Sunday, just to share and to highlight just like Steve Anderson. So for those of you who are listening, God bless you. For those of you who are watching on the replay, I hope that this will truly bless your heart. Please like, share, and subscribe for future shows. Thank you once again. This is your sister and ally, Moy Talks. Okay, for episode 7 of Moy Talks. I'll see you in a couple weeks. Take care.
Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, remember, life is way too short to be average, so don't shrink back. Don't shrink back, Masse, and compete with no one other than yourself. Be excellent at whatever you do. Enough love from your sister and ally, Moy FUNG.